Welcome to the Long Range Pursuit Podcast, presented by Gunwerks, where we learn about and share long-range shooting techniques, science, and gear.
All right, we're back on with another Long Range Pursuit Podcast, Instructor's Corner edition. So, it's spring, and I think we're all kind of looking at draw seasons, and, it's like 6 months out from season. I'm already getting like the itchy, bear season's a few months out, so we're getting closer to that. So, I'm starting to look at gear. I haven't even really gone through some of my gear that needed some work over and look at since last season. And now it's like all of a sudden, okay, what do I need for this season? So it's like, this is the time of year I'm in gear mode, like preparation kind of planning, and what do I need? Just spent this weekend seam sealing some new tents and stuff like that. So I think we're going to do kind of like a really informal, just pack dump, what's in my pack, gear we're crushing on. I don't know what all the cool kids are saying these days, but basically just let's talk gear. What are we carrying in the field, and what are we excited about to take out and give it a try this year?
Sure. Yeah. Awesome.
So, anyway, where do we start? We got a couple notes here that we've been taking, but Brian, you want to dive into clothing first, or where are you thinking?
Yeah, I think for each of us, and what's kind of cool about this is we all kind of come from different backgrounds and different hunting experiences, and we're not, a warehouse of different companies, so with the exception of Gunwerks products, which we get half decent deals on, but nothing gets given for free, everything that we use is out of our own pocket, so just like the listeners, we just we do our research, and, we talk to people, and, and then what we use is just kind of comes out of what we've used, what's worked, and also the type of hunting and the type of environments. So I think kind of the style of hunting and the environment, for each one of us is kind of important to kind of give some
is maybe some background and kind of what perspective we're all coming from, because I think you're right. We're all very different backgrounds, and I mean, we're all obviously in Cody, Wyoming now, and so like what we're going after now is the same. Like we're kind of all in the same goal department as of now, but our leading up to this point backgrounds are very different, right?
I was saying that in a very roundabout way.
No, definitely. So I mean, me, pretty much born and bred Western hunter. I mean, grew up in Utah, spent some time hunting in Wyoming. Always dreamed of getting up here, kind of getting away from the crowds, and so. I mean, it's been mountain hunting, mule deer, and some elk pretty much since day one. Didn't really grow up. Like, as a young kid, didn't grow up hunting, but, watched Dad and Grandpa get out. And my dad was pretty much done hunting by the time I was hunting age. And so I just kind of picked up where they left off and went for it. And so really enjoy getting out and doing backpack hunting, high country mule deer. It's like just what gets me really excited. End of the day, love some elk hunting, and, expanding my horizons over the last couple of years with, looking at some, New Mexico and Texas stuff, and, hoping to get out of country and do some stuff up north here before long. Brian has some background there, but that's really me. It's kind of where we're at, is where I've been whole life. And I know you grew up in Alaska, right?
Yeah. And so, many, many years ago when I was a kid, I grew up in Alaska, so the gear I used at the time, was kind of like the stuff that was really good for, really good cold weather or really wet conditions back then, but then once I left Alaska and joined the Marine Corps, and then spent, my first, 10 years in law enforcement, I was so busy learning how to be a canine handler and learning how to be a SWAT cop and stuff that I didn't really do any hunting, so when I got back into it, it's like the technology had changed so much, so a lot of the stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, my plaid looking wool shirts, just weren't cutting it anymore, but that's what I wore, when I was younger. So, just jumping into the technology and seeing what was new, and then combining that with, pretty quickly I started bow hunting, just because of the fact that it got me more tags. It wasn't crowded out there. So my tastes are kind of steered by the fact that I used to be out a lot in the early season, so very limited, like really cold late season type hunting. And then just where I was located. I mean, the 3 states that I tended to hunt was, I gave up on California, after like the second year, but then was Arizona, Wyoming, and Idaho. So those are kind of the 3 states where I learned the draw system, and I learned the tags, and I kind of learned the areas, so my what I used was kind of based on, a lot of bow hunting in those states.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Over to me.
Yeah.
I got one brand, Carhartt.
I like it.
Mossy Oak. No, being from Nebraska, that's what it was. It was what's going to keep you warm while you're sitting there for a long time.
Right. So were you like a lot of tree stand or like watching cornfields, or what kind of was the style hunting?
It was
over there?
It was like I didn't even spend the money for a blind or a tree stand. It was back against a tree at my great uncle's farm. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
And then I'd go with buddies and we'd do tree stand and stuff with them. But yeah, I mean, it was muck boots, the Arctic ones, and then Carhartt, and I mean, whatever, 3 hoodies that you found in the closet.
It's frankly something that I don't know that I would have the right answers or know even how to handle. Like you kind of poo-poo the sedentary or the tree stand hunter, but it's like I don't have a clue how I would stay warm in a tree stand. I've never hunted out a tree stand, and I've thought about it. Like I would freeze. My style of hunting is like I stay warm by moving. Like I'm hiking, and that's how I stay warm.
And that's the difference is you go, it's dark, you're set up, and it's like you're going to a football game. Yeah. You basically just get as much warm layers and crap on as you can, and then you're just quiet.
Pound the calories and
And by the time it gets 9, 10 o'clock, maybe you're going back home to go take a nap or something anyway, and then you come back out again. So you can do it. You just, I mean, it's like
you can get it out.
Yeah, that's the deal. It's a couple hours of suffering, but you're getting the warmest stuff you can. Now, for me, coming here and first off, just getting crap from everyone right off the bat, and then. So then I was like, okay, well, what can we do? And what camo should I go for? And to me, I was like, man, I don't want to follow the, some of the hunting gear stuff or camo it seems like it's turned into like the snowboarding world where it's a fashion statement or something.
Right. And my Gucci camo right here. Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to stay away from that. But it's stuff I liked the Kuyu Velo.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Yeah. I like that pattern, and it was new coming out when I was looking. So, anyway, I just kind of went all in on that and then found that, wow, this stuff can keep you as warm for a fourth of the weight, so that's kind of what I realize is it's not just the style and how cool it looks. It's like, it actually is way better made. So I still love some of my Carhartt stuff and a Cabela's coat I've had for a long dang time, I still wear those sometimes, but man, there's nothing better than like what do you have on right there?
So this is that I think Brian had this mentioned in one of his notes here. This is the Kuyu Peloton. I think it's their 240 hoodie.
Yeah.
Like you guys know, I don't take this thing off. Like I wear it freaking to work, to the grocery store, it doesn't matter. I freaking love this thing. I've been through 3 of them. It's, worn and threadbare, but I mean, one of my favorite mid-layer, just kind of all around.
It is really like the modern day sweatshirt.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a modern day sweatshirt.
Right.
It's windproof.
It's like a technical hoodie.
Yeah. And it kind of fills that same role that a sweatshirt filled. Way back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You and I both have the kind of the gray ash or something, gunmetal or something like that ones, and I love them. That's one of my go-to jackets for sure.
Right. Yeah, pretty awesome. So I don't know. I mean, obviously the layer systems kind of, for good reason, become kind of the way to go. I know Brian and I had a lot of discussions bear hunting, or we had a lot of time to kill while looking for bears last spring. Let's say that. And so I had a lot of discussions on that. I think, you got your Merino versus your synthetic base layer debate, which is always a fun one. And, I tend to kind of, I wouldn't say I'm firmly in one boat or the other. I think it really depends on the season. I've got both and
completely.
And conditions, right?
Yeah. Like getting into base layers, I think one of the first things I saw that I thought was just really, ingenious from Kuyu was, the zip off thermals.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so huge for me.
I'm a 100% convert as of this last season.
Because you put them on in the morning, and then by 9 o'clock, you're like, man, I wish I hadn't put these things on. Well, guess what? You just drop your trousers and unzip them.
Yeah. Zip them right off.
Just take them right off, So, and then I like the Merino, for everything we do around here.
Yeah.
But I took them up to Alaska. It was a few years back, and it was just a really rainy, wet moose season. And it took like twice as long to dry as synthetic stuff.
They dry slow, right?
Yeah.
The nice thing about merino is it'll keep you warm when it's wet, or wool in general.
Yeah.
Keep you warm when it's wet, but it is hydro. Oh man, it does absorb water, and it takes a while to dry when it does.
Yeah.
You know, I like it particularly for like backpack hunts where I know I'm getting stinky as can
Yep.
be. You know, you're wearing that stuff for days on end. And that merino, it's amazing what it does for how bad you stink at the end of the day. I mean, you could wear a piece of synthetic base layers for an hour and you're stinky, you know. And that merino will go for days. So
Yeah. Like
one of the biggest
wear a
things.
merino for a day, and then wear just like a base athletic Under Armour shirt for a day.
Oh my
and there'll
gosh.
be just a world of difference.
Absolutely.
And then you bust that after you warm or wash it again, the synthetic one or like your Under Armour. You wear it, like you said, an hour later. It's like brings out the old stink.
Yeah.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
Yes, I like the merino stuff.
So it kind of depends on the conditions. The other thing is, you know, I don't have any science here, but I have this firm belief that merino is very good at regulating temperatures, right?
Yep.
So I'll wear a thin merino, you know, from early September when it's hot through late October when it's cold. It's like you can almost wear the same base layer in a really wide range and be pretty comfortable. But what I found is in really, really, really cold conditions, like really cold conditions, I've actually started preferring my synthetics. And I just feel like I stay warmer in synthetics versus the merino. And I don't know if it's a sweat thing and the synthetics dry faster. And, you know, I don't have any science to back that up other than just my own experience. But I've started shifting back to my synthetics for really cold conditions.
No, you always see like the different thickness of base layers, you know, for different conditions. You know, and honestly, it doesn't, at least when there's any hunting seasons open here, in my opinion, it doesn't get cold enough to need anything but the thinnest base layer.
Right. You use a mid layer or an insulative layer, an outer layer to supplement. So I'm with you there. And then, thin base layers.
And then so I want a thin base layer. Mm-hmm. And then my next layer, which is usually what you're wearing right there.
Exactly.
Peloton, because I can unzip that.
Yep.
100%. I don't like anything that I can't unzip, you know, or somehow ventilate or take off.
I hate having to take stuff over my head, especially. Yeah, I mean, plus you're wearing, you know, vinyl harnesses and holster and all that crap. And, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, if I was to, you know, just kind of, you know, we don't really have any brand loyalty here.
Sure.
You know, but if I was to kind of, not to stereotype, but just kind of put stuff in categories, you know, I've used the First Light line of clothing, you know, and I've used that a lot for like desert and early season stuff. And like the First Light guide pants, you know, I can't say I've used every pant out there, but I really like those pants. That's just kind of what I wear everywhere. Yeah, unless it's really, really cold. You know, and then the same thing with their merino wool tops. It's just kind of what I've worn for a long time.
They're known for the merino, right?
Yeah.
Always been really good on the merino. I've not owned a lot of their stuff, but I've always heard really good things. You know, I think like to me, like your core Western hunter again, you know, we're usually a little bit later in the season, so you're usually getting some cold weather. We're generally pretty dry. I think that, you know, thin base layer, whether it's merino or synthetic, and like there's 1,000 of them out there, right? You're kind of mid-weight, breathable, stretchy a pant is kind of your standard go-to, right? That attack pant from Kuyu is real popular. That pant from the First Light. I mean, every camel manufacturer out there, you know, making some technical gear is building something like that. They're just freaking phenomenal, comfortable and everything else.
Yeah, and if you compare them to what, you know, Ian and I grew up on, you know, their ability to like deflect water.
Yeah.
You know, to keep you a little bit dry when the brush is wet.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of amazing for something that breathes so well and it's nice and cool.
Yeah. Just a little bit of DWR treatment on there. And then, you know, frankly, you know, if I lived in the Pacific Northwest, for example, or was hunting in Alaska a lot, I might change things, but really find very seldom the need to be wearing truly waterproof pants, you know. And so a lot of times it's that they're more breathable, and then I can throw on a pair of gaiters if I need, especially if there's a little bit of dew or some rain on the brush to keep just a little bit of the wet off. And then, you know, obviously if you're hunting in really wet conditions or late season where you're sitting down and glassing in the snow for long periods of time or whatever else, then you can supplement there. But I also carry rain gear never leaves my pack, right? And because wet conditions are relatively seldom here, I'm usually not carrying like a true like 3-layer, heavy duty rain gear. I'm usually carrying like ultralight, thin, pack light material type rain gear. And so that very light, always in my pack. And so say I do need to get some weatherproof protection, I can throw those rain pants over the top of my whatever stretchy breathable pants I'm wearing. And now I've got full waterproof protection as well. Sit down in the snow and glass or, hike through a rainstorm or whatever I need to do.
Yeah. And it gives you a little extra like windbreak.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you're really trying to get the max out of your insulating layers,
exactly,
one more layer of wind protection makes a difference.
One on top, 100%.
Even if it's rain gear.
Yep.
And I can't even remember what they called it. It's some 7 or 8 year old Kuyu lightweight backpacking stuff I have. And I've only used it a handful of times. Because it doesn't rain that much here. But when I needed it, it worked. And then kind of getting back to if I was to categorize stuff, if I go up to Alaska, I really wear a lot of the Kuyu stuff. Because I just like their Yukon rain gear. I mean, that's in my opinion about as good as any breathable rain gear can get. There's no such thing as really waterproof breathable rain gear. Because the best Gore-Tex type material, and I'll say Gore-Tex is Gore-Tex type, meaning it's breathable, is eventually going to soak through like under your pack straps or places where water, gets compressed into it. And then once that water gets in there, it seems like it's like a conduit, where it can kind of flow freely, so, it's like, my dad's, guided in Alaska his whole life. And if he's working out of a boat, you still won't get him out of his rubber duck rain suit, because that is the absolutely waterproof.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
But as far as I think the best compromise as far as on the breathable side stuff goes, that that Kuyu Yukon. Make sure I got it right. Yeah, Yukon.
I think it's their Yukon's a little bit heavier duty.
Yeah, that's the 3-layer, and that's some pretty good rain gear.
Anything, with a high waterproof and high breathability rating, with that membrane in there is gonna do pretty good. A lot of good waterproof membranes out there these days.
And then another thing to look for too that I think is really important is when you're looking at your rain gear, when it does get to that soak through stage, what's important is that it can dry quick. Yeah. And the things that keeps it from drying quick is if there's any sort of a lining on the inside that gets wet, then that just prolongs the time it takes for that rain gear to dry before it's going to kind of work as advertised again. So sometimes you'll see, jackets that are kind of marketed as having some sort of a little insulation layer under, so it's kind of like a one jacket does it all. But the flip side is I'd rather have 2 layers, so I can dry them separately, and not have my waterproof layer basically unusable because it's gotten soaked through and it takes forever to dry.
Yeah. And that's where, I had a buddy just asked me the other day, he's like, hey, what soft shell should I pick up? And I'm a big fan of soft shells. I own several of them. And, a few years back, those kind of came on the market and were kind of the big thing for a while. And I've found myself pulling back from soft shells quite a bit, especially for technical wear, and leaning way more back towards a waterproof hard shell. And when I say a shell, there's no lining, right? It's just a waterproof outer and a membrane, basically.
Yeah.
And so, like you're saying, it's waterproof. It's going to dry quickly. It's going to block wind very, very effectively.
Yeah.
And then I'm using separate layers as my insulation in between.
Yeah.
Usually a fleece at the least, and then I've always got a puffy jacket. It could be August in southern Utah, and I'll probably have my my puffy jacket with me somewhere. Just because I always have those things on hand. But then you just start adding on layers, the more layers you need to stay warm or dry or whatever else, and you've got a very, very versatile system.
Yeah,
you could freaking spend the night on the mountain with that if you really had to.
Yeah, and thinking back on the Kuyu Yukon rain pants, I was watching something the other day and it made me think of it, where these guys got instantly soaked, crossing the river with gaiters, But if you always have a little duct tape with you, and you're wearing gaiters, and you got the good rain pants, so you get that overlap, and then you just, if you got to splash your way across a thigh deep river, if you duct tape the bottom of it and keep moving, you'll stay bone dry.
Really?
As long as you have the the good rain pants overlapped with the gaiters.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just hard for the water to make all those corners to get in there.
Right. Right.
You know,
Not a bad option.
so they kind of turn into a pair of hip boots,
Sure.
quasi hip boots for a short period of time.
Right. For the occasional, like if you're
Yeah.
constantly in the water, right?
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not
Then
gonna-
it wouldn't work.
yeah.
But I mean, if it's just like for a river crossing or
crossing.
something,
Yeah.
you can make it work.
Can be pretty handy. Anything else on clothing? Are we feeling pretty good there?
You know,
Trying to think.
like there's one piece of gear. You know, part of this kind of our topics here is one piece of gear that we kind of drool over.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
the latest piece of gear I picked up, I can make absolutely no claims as far as how well it works yet. You know, because aside from in the shower,
Sure.
I haven't worn it.
Yeah.
You know, but Sitka makes what they call their Kodiak Jacket.
Huh.
You know, when you're hunting in Alaska, you spend most of your time wearing hip boots.
Yeah.
So if you've got a 3/4 length like duster style jacket,
Okay.
you don't really need rain pants.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that Kodiak
Really?
jacket is. It's like a, you know, it's like a duster length,
Intriguing. Yeah.
3-layer Gore-Tex. And it actually has a little snap, so you can snap it up so it's only normal length, or you can unsnap it so it hangs down. You know, and I'm planning on going up there in September. So
Nice.
not that I'm wishing rain upon myself, but I'm kind of looking forward to testing it.
Yeah. Hey.
You know, because when I saw that, I was like, that looks like
I could see that being
that would
really
work very
effective.
well for that.
With a lot of rain in the forecast for sure. That'd
Yeah.
be an awesome piece of gear.
You might want to explain what you meant about in the shower.
Yeah, my wife kind of laughs at me sometimes because I mean, I will literally like throw on some rain gear.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then just go stand in the shower and drink a beer or maybe a couple beers, you know, for 30 minutes trying to get it to fail.
Yeah.
He tries inviting me over too. I'm like, not today.
Not for
Go in the
me.
shower and test some rain gear with me?
Our wives have probably all put up with a little bit of gear weirdness over the years
Yeah.
from us. Yeah.
But yeah, didn't you were testing one out for your dad or something? Is that
Yeah,
what you were looking at?
yeah. You know, and honestly, I based on the shower test, I wasn't quite confident enough to buy it for him for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll see how it does.
Yeah.
You know, and then if it does well for me, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, because that shower test can be probably a little unrealistic
Right.
too.
Brian's stamp of approval on that. I like it. Huh. I'm trying to think what other gear. You know, one interesting thing, just trying to find, I guess, some unique ones. I find myself, as of late, you know, it used to be always find like a good Sitka or Kuyu rain gear. My waterproof shell, as of the last couple of years, I had an old ski jacket that I picked up years back from Arc'teryx. You know, Gore-Tex Pro Shell, 100% waterproof, real high quality jacket. Only problem was it was bright freaking orange. It was the only one in stock when I bought it, and it's like, hey, it was on sale or whatever. Great, you know. And when you're snowboarding or climbing or whatever, who cares that it's orange, right? Well, for hunting, that's kind of the no-no. Well, one day I had an epiphany. I thought, well, if I'm hunting with a rifle, I need orange anyway. So as of late, that's my orange. You know, obviously if I'm not wearing a hard shell, then, you know, I'm wearing a vest or whatever else, but it's actually really nice when it's really cold or really wet out. I can just throw that bright orange rain shell on and I've got my orange. I don't have to deal with, I hate wearing vests with a passion, like absolute passion. Those vests are just a nightmare. Yeah. And I can avoid it with that jacket on. So,
and I mean, if you're talking about the technicalities of being, you know, legal too. I mean, you know, Wyoming's kind of nice because we can scrim by with just a hat. Yeah. But as soon as it starts raining, that gets covered with a hood. Yeah. You know, and now you're in that borderline, right? You know, maybe not quite legal. Yeah. You know, whereas you're very clearly are there.
Very much. And I get made fun of because I'm full on pumpkin patch at that point. But I don't care. I love it. It's been great. So
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day,
embrace
it keeps you dry.
Yeah. That's right.
People can laugh, but if you're dry and warm.
Yeah.
I think that other piece of gear you're talking about was the gaiters. Yeah. And, you know, great for walking through dewy stuff. Right. But also down in Texas, they're amazing because all the dang thorns and crap.
Everything is trying to stick you and poke you and stab you down there. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big piece of gear down there.
Pretty handy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because, you know, after the first trip to Texas, you know, a couple of years ago, you know, First Light makes their what are they called? The sawtooth or sawback. Awkward pause. Sawback brush pants. Huh. And They're basically it's basically their guide pants.
Yeah.
But with just like an extra layer fully on the thighs and down the front of the shins
to kind of protect you from picking and
oh yeah,
tearing.
and I can pretty much plow through most of the thorns with those, without thinking about it.
I could see that being an absolute go-to if you were like a Texas guide or hunting down there a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last couple trips to Texas, I've worn them, pretty much exclusively, and they work as advertised.
Right.
It's to the point where if you back up into something, you really notice the difference.
Right. Very cool.
Because they don't have the protection on the back, just the front.
Yeah.
But, they work well.
Cool.
The other thing with those pants is like, I know Kuyu and First Light have kind of gone that way. I don't know if Sitka has or not. It's the pants that are like what do you call it? They're not camo.
Oh, just solids?
Solids, yeah. And I love those too, because then you can wear them to church and then go wear them hunting the next day. Like that. Those are awesome pants for going out in town too.
Yeah. I run around with wearing camo, and honestly, it probably should be shifting a lot more towards solids. It seems like a lot of guys are moving back to solids just because you don't need to be hiding out from whoever in the office, Or
maybe
it's like I have no shame wearing camo to the office, obviously, but
good place to do it here.
Yeah,
can't hurt.
Because not that it matters, and this kind of sounds kind of stupid because we talk about the hunting fashion show, but I've got such a mismatch of different brands and different types that I've started buying a lot of solids, and then the bow hunter in me, is always about keeping stuff scent free. And not exposing it to smells of gasoline and all that kind of stuff. So kind of my system is my camouflage clothing, that lives in trash bags. And that gets kept pretty scent free for bow hunting. Whereas my solids, I'll wear them out to the bar. That's my church. I'll wear them out to the bar. I'll just wear them wherever. Because rifle hunting, I don't really worry about that level of scent free nearly as much. So it's kind of how I break my categories down.
My thought is, we kind of make laugh at, you're wearing your technical Kuyu gear out to, whatever, out to check the mail or something like that. But to me, the more I think about it, I've invested all this money in high quality technical gear. And so, it's like we have really cold winters out here. I've got farm chores and stuff that got to get done in the winter. I'll set up on a Saturday and it's 20 mile per hour winds and it's 10 degrees outside and I got to get out and do stuff. It's like, well, I've got really nice warm stuff right here to wear, so I end up throwing that stuff on, right? Yeah. Why not use it? And so, it's like, it's cold walking out to my truck or filling up gas at the gas station. So I'm going to wear a jacket and I just happen to have invested money in camouflage gear for hunting. So it's camo. I'm not wearing a camo because I want to wear camo. I'm wearing camo because the technical gear that clothes I want to wear happen to be camo.
Oh yeah.
But, oh well.
I'm sure it's the same out here, but I always laughed about that growing up in Nebraska, again, going to church, it was like everyone there was wearing some kind of mossy oak cabela's because that was their winter coat. It was not, they had a fancy winter coat and then they're hunting stuff.
Right.
It was the same one the whole day.
They had.
Yeah, for sure. Should we talk packs?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you guys liking for packs these days?
Well, I can't really claim to be any expert on packs. I will say that for Alaska, kind of like the cult pack in Alaska is a Barney Sport Chalet, and it's a big old freighter external frame, 7,000 cubic inch type pack, and that's for years that's kind of been the go-to for guides and stuff. So if I go up to Alaska now, my dad has enough of them that he's got a loaner.
Oh, nice.
And I remember going up a few years back, and bringing, I think at the time I was using a Tenzing pack, and bringing that with. My dad just kind of looked at it and laughed and handed me the Barney
Here, let me give you a real
pack. He's like, "You will be no good to me because you can't pack moose quarters with that, so you will bring this pack."
That's awesome.
But I've never used that really heavy duty style external frame pack down here though, but it works very well. Just for up there, just because of the size of the things that you're carrying. I think if I was dull sheep hunting up there, I'd quickly revert back to like what I would use down here for Western hunting.
Right.
Because the loads aren't as big and the animals aren't as big.
Right.
But
I've been using these Kuyu Pro. We got a couple different iterations of these Pro packs for a couple years, carbon frame, and man, they've done really well. Had a lot of luck with them. Hauled a lot of deer and elk and whatever else. But a lot of friends running these Kifaru packs, and I know a lot of guys have had luck with those. I mean, a lot of great packs
Oh,
market these days.
Mhm.
I've actually got one I've been crushing on here for a little while. I'm going to show you guys a video.
Looks like you planned this.
Yeah.
I did. We'll see if you guys like this as much as I do. Oh no, that is not it. It was here until I plugged the screen in.
Oh, Nature Walk, episode 2.
That's the next one, right?
So that's your backpack, huh? You've had it for years and it's never let you down. Yeah, your old backpack is good enough, right? Wrong! Once again, that's world-renowned naturalist and lecturer, the outdoors ultimate enthusiast, Steve Clymer. And this time he's wearing the brand new Archwood Flex Trek 37 trillion Whip Snake Edition. So revolutionary, you have to be insane to go near any trail without it.
This is Steve Clymer, the outdoors ultimate enthusiast. I've always worn Archwood backpacks, whether it's the SAS Flex Day Pack, Easy Breeze Edition, or the classic Black Geyser. The Flex Trek 37 trillion Whip Snake Edition is Archwood's most responsive pack yet.
What about the Whip Snake Sidewinder Edition? I-Series, with its space-age responsive flex construction, developed by NASA scientists, especially for Archwood. It's time to intimidate your surroundings with the brand new Flex Trek 37 trillion Whip Snake Edition. You're no Steve Clymer, but Steve Clymer is, and he won't be found anywhere without his Flex Trek 37 trillion Whip Snake Edition.
All right, we'll
You
hit
need to wear
pause
your
there.
orange if you're wearing that pack.
We'll finish watching that one later. There's a couple of those. That's one of my all-time favorites.
That's pretty funny.
Seen that.
So while we're geeking out about all the Gucci gear,
He's got
There you
the
go.
weight high and centered, though. I like that.
Right.
Someone taught him how to load.
Yeah.
You're no Steve Clymer, but Steve Clymer is. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, should we get our stuff?
But
Right.
actually, one more thing on the packs is, so I probably agonized, probably for about the last 3 or 4 years over what pack I was going to
yeah,
upgrade
yeah,
to. Because I was using a Tenzing, and Tenzing is actually a really good pack for bow hunters because it is quiet. The fabric is really quiet.
that soft touch
Yeah.
stuff that they're using.
Yeah, and its organization is good. The meat shelf kind of leaves a little to be desired. It's kind of like a zip out style, and it actually works pretty good for carrying water bags. But you can fit a mule deer in there, but anything bigger is pretty tough. So I used it for kind of backcountry bow hunting for quite a few years, and honestly, it is a pretty good pack. But I was like, it's time to upgrade. To something with a really good load shelf, and I went back and forth, but ultimately I ended up getting a Stone Glacier. Right now I'm using it is the Evo 6400, I believe, 6900.
yeah.
Not the 37
Yeah.
trillion.
Yeah, and so what really impresses me about it is I use it as a day pack.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that thing just compresses down so good, and I just use the center zipper on it, and it compresses down to a day pack, but it has the ability to expand out huge.
That's where a lot of these hunting packs have gone the last couple of years, and I think it's absolutely the right way to go. Right? Is you've got you just compress that thing down. You can pack it with pretty much nothing in it, and when you got an animal on the ground, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm carrying this 4,000 cubic inch pack. I mean, I know a lot of guys are running like 5,000s and 7,000s. I prefer something smaller, so I can't put that much crap in it because I'm a wimp and I don't want to carry that much stuff. But even then, I mean, I carried two full deer solo pack outs this last fall. I've hauled half of a boned out elk in that thing, plus camp, overnight gear. And so it's like you can do it in a 4,000 cubic
Yeah.
inch pack, and that's still a plenty large pack. But again, they shrink down to nothing for day hunting.
Yeah,
So,
I really like that. And then, I think the one pack I never really got to give a good tryout is Exo Mountain Gear. That was high on my list, but I really like the Kifarus. And honestly, the one thing it came down to is the breaking the pack down to get meat on it and getting it back together is a little simpler with the Stone Glacier. And so I'm just putting into, when you're doing that pack out, it's usually got about 5 minutes of daylight left. You're worried about grizzly bears, and your hands are cold. So that's not really the time I want to be, just messing with a bunch of buckles and stuff.
Right,
So
right.
it's just a simple system. So so
I'm,
far so good.
I'm probably kind of an outlier here. So many guys are marketing these meat shelves, and I've had all these packs with meat shelves for so many years. I don't use them.
Really?
I'm a throw my meat in a. I don't even carry. This is probably like sacrilege to a lot of guys. I don't even carry game bags typically. I don't like the bulk or the weight. I carry big trash compactor bags or contractor trash bags, and I throw my meat. My quarters are boned out in heavy duty trash bags, and I throw it in my pack, and try to distribute weight so you're carrying the weight properly. But I much prefer to carry meat in the compartment of my bag, and then I've got all that cinched down and compression straps and everything to use.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm probably kind of different from a lot of guys in that regard, but
I'm the same way.
It seems to work.
Yeah.
So.
Because my Tenzing, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
So getting one with a meat shelf, I'm kind of trying it for the first time.
Yeah.
But I like what you said on the garbage bags too, is, because I used to put a lot of thought into it, and I was never really in a situation that was bad enough where it was an option, but I always had garbage bags with the concept of it, especially early season bow hunting. That gives you the ability to submerge meat in water.
Right.
For a while too.
Yeah.
So that now you can keep it cool.
Sure.
So,
if you've got water, right?
Yeah,
and one of the downfalls to bags is they're not breathable. So if it is warm weather, you got to be real careful. You especially don't want to be laying them out in the sun or anything like that.
Yeah.
But usually I'm loading up a quarter, stuffing it in my pack and going. And it just, seems to work. And I'm, I'm kind of a like OCD about, I don't want blood on my gear. And like I'm really kind of funny about that. And so, those trash bags, I can double bag stuff and I'll never get a drop of blood on my gear.
Yeah.
That way, so
Man.
anyway.
Different
ways to do it.
Me. I'm the opposite of that. Just crap all over my pack.
Well, I was going to mention
till it has blood on it.
my smell's not been very great with the COVID. Who knows how many months ago? But something's smelling really goaty in here, and I'm thinking it's your pack. Probably coming back from Texas, you got some Aoudad stink on there or something like that. Were any of those Aoudads stinky?
Oh, even worse. I'm pretty sure he might have had a javelina or two in there.
Oh,
maybe that's
Way
what it
worse.
is. I'm smelling.
That's probably what you're smelling.
There's some
something
right there, some up top on the straps.
So this is it. While we're on the topic of gear, one thing, again, I'm kind of OCD about that. Like I've got a drop of blood on the back from my last hunt last year, and it's bugging me. Like I haven't soaked my bag yet, And but one thing that from my years background washing wetsuits, we found this product called oh man, it's gonna escape me now. Mirazyme. I think it's called something different. McNett used to make it. It might be Gear Aid that makes it now, but it's basically using the same enzyme stuff in like Febreze. And so it's just a liquid. Basically, like I'll take a pack, I'll hose it down at the end of a hunt, just kind of get it hosed off and a little bit of the stuff kind of broken up and loosened up. And then I'll take that pack, pour in like a couple capfuls of this enzyme stuff.
Is that stuff?
There you go. That's it. Well, let's see. Yeah, there's a couple different versions of it. They make it for sports gear. They make it for others. But you can buy it on Amazon for like $10 for 10 ounces. And I'll fill up a bucket or a bathtub, drop a couple capfuls of that in the water, submerge my pack in it, wash it around in there for a little bit. Basically, you let it stay on there. You don't rinse it off. So you've rinsed your gear, then you just submerge it and let it soak for a little while. And those enzymes work on kind of degrading any like your blood or organic matter and whatever else. Removes smell really, really well.
Yeah.
So, like I say, maybe I'm a little bit over OCD, but guys wanting to clean packs, and I see a lot of really nasty looking packs that guys don't clean them. Give that stuff a try.
I mean,
Works really
it's
well.
probably a functional reason too.
Yeah.
Because if it cuts down on the combined stink, that's not natural
Well,
to the
I mean,
environment.
it's gross, right? It's stinky. It's scaring animals away, and around here, it's probably attracting bears. It's like that's good enough reason for me to get the blood off my pack.
Oh, absolutely.
But
you say you're OCD. If you watch some of Mark Kenyon's stuff, he's a whitetail fanatic.
Okay.
And when he goes and checks his trail cams, if he touches his trail cam, he sprays his trail cam as well. Just touches
awesome,
it. So there's some OCD guys out there for sure.
I mean, some of it works, some of it's probably voodoo, but
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
So, what about optics? This one's always a
It's
good
a fun
one.
rabbit hole to jump into.
Yeah, we probably won't have much disagreement on this one for sure, but
yeah. Well, obviously we've got the new Revic spotting scope that I'm pretty excited about trying.
Yeah.
I've had my Swarovski ATX for the last couple of years, and it's been like the biggest game changer ever. And I probably won't give that thing up, but what I'm really excited about with this Revic spotting scope is having one a little bit more dedicated to range work and some of your kind of shooting, spotting kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's got that reticle eyepiece in there, which I'd not had before.
Yeah.
And I think is vastly underutilized for long range shooters.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We mentioned that in a previous podcast, but I think more and more guys moving towards using those reticles in their spotting scopes is going to make better long range shooters and hunters in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for myself, I mean, I spent, a lot of my life, I never carried a spotting scope, just because I wasn't trophy hunting, and, I could see what I needed to see with binoculars, and then when I did carry a spotting scope, for years and years and years, I had the Leopold Mark V, Mark IV.
Those folded,
the 12 to 40 HD.
Yeah.
They're kind of an issued piece of gear that was issued to me. So of course I'm going to use it hunting too. So I used that for many years, and now I have a prototype Revic spotting scope that I use. And, the common thread that you might have noticed now is that I've been using anything that was free. So one of these days I'm actually going to have to buy myself a spotting scope.
Yeah.
And kind of the one I've been drooling over is the Kowa, however you say it.
Yeah.
They have a TSN 553, and it's a little compact.
Little micro. So
15 to 40, I think it is.
Did you get a chance to play with mine last year when we were bear hunting? Did I have it out there?
No,
I've got one.
No, okay. I don't think you had it out there. I think we talked about it.
I'll bring it. You can play with it. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I mean, for backpack hunting, because it's this big. It weighs like 24 ounces. I mean, it's just stupid light.
What's it called?
It's a Kowa TSN 5.
KOWA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're Japanese glass. They're making pure fluorite, so it's really exceptional optics. This is a really micro. It's very niche use, right? It's very very small optic. I think it's like a 15 to 45.
This little dude?
Really really cool little scope.
It's the angled piece or no?
I use the angled one. Definitely prefer the angled. But yeah, man, it's especially like if I'm going on a hunt where spending multiple days in, I'm worried about weight. I'll carry that ATX when I can because it's freaking phenomenal. But you give up very little for literally less than half the weight on that spotting scope. It's a big deal.
And I heard this somewhere, and I could
That's pretty small.
Yeah, and I could be completely off on this, but I heard somewhere that fluoride based glass works a lot better for photography. And it's interesting because my dad has one of the Kowa. I want to say it's an 80 millimeter scope. And last time I was up there, we were bear and moose hunting. Probably some of the best phone scope pictures I've ever taken in my life.
Right.
I've got some phenomenal pictures of wolves, half a mile away, where you can see their eyes and you can just see every fine detail, and so I'm not sure there's not something to that because, through that Kowa spotting scope, I got some phenomenal pictures.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible. Yeah. I'll bring mine in, let you play with it. I really like it.
Yeah.
Fun
I'll give it back to you next fall.
There you go. Yeah. I wrote an article in the last long range magazine that we published, and basically comparing the two, the ATX and that little Kowa.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So a lot of fun. Again, very different applications, but very very. I mean, basically top their class for two different types of what you need for glass and the nails.
And I'm as much as I'd love to have one of the, the 2-eye Swarovskis.
Yeah. Right.
Not quite my budget right now.
No,
so
right.
I think I'll settle for the little backpacking scope.
Yeah. Not to mention the weight on those things.
Yeah.
Not really my cup of tea.
Which is why I never carried one for so long, as I didn't carry the weight.
Yeah.
So.
People actually used the big. I think the traditional big eyes were Kowa scopes, the bigger ones. A lot of guys used for a lot of years. But
what did Mike have down in Texas? Mike and his wife had that bazooka style. I mean, it was this dang big.
105 millimeter.
This
BTX with the what do they call
the
it?
BTX,
with
the binocular vision.
Yeah,
those are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I carried one around for Coues deer down in New Mexico last year or year before. Awesome, but dude, that thing is a boat anchor. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
we were
not a fan of carrying it.
I mean, because when we were down in New Mexico, antelope hunting.
Yeah.
We had the swirl rep with us.
Yeah.
So he left us one. I think it was the same thing that they had in Texas, the 105.
Yeah.
And completely unrelated to hunting, but we could see the moons of Jupiter and the rings on Saturn with
I
it.
believe it. I
Yeah,
believe it.
sitting out there at night,
Pretty phenomenal.
having a couple beers and seeing what we could see.
Wow, that's cool. Huh. What about binos? Where are we at these days?
Well, I can tell you what I want.
Well, we know
Yeah.
what we all want.
I think we're all in agreement on this.
Oh yeah.
Those Swaro, NL Pures.
Yeah.
I think
Been eyeing those for a little while.
boy, those in a 12 power, I think will.
The combination
do everything for me.
of wider field of view and added magnification just blows my mind. You think about it. I've got a pair of EL range that are phenomenal glass, but you get the extra power moving from a 10 to a 12 power, and it's still a wider field of view than the 10 power binoculars. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
And I've had a pair of
beat.
Zeiss Classic, which were top of the line, 25 years ago when I bought them. Yeah. And I've been using them ever since. They're great binos.
Right. And the glass quality probably hasn't changed from then till now.
No, they're still
not by a lot anyway.
I think just some of the coatings make colors pop a little bit better.
Sure.
So there's a little bit more of a HD effect when you look through some of the newer binos compared to mine.
Right.
As far as the clarity goes, I can't tell a difference. I think the distortion around the edges is a little bit more than I see with modern glass.
Right.
But I'm definitely due for an upgrade. But I've certainly gotten my use out of those, 10 to 42 Zeiss.
My big dilemma is I switched maybe 2 years ago to a range finding bino, and I ran those Zeiss Victory range finding binos for a couple years, and then switched to these Swaro ELs, and it's really nice. I really like having, especially for long range hunting, having rangefinder and a ballistic solution inside the bino. It's an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
We've always got our BR2 or now our BR4 rangefinder on hand, but sometimes it's nice to just not have to go dig that out of the pack or hip belt or whatever. If it's just a quick shot or, how far is he, and then get a little bit more fine tuned. But that's my dilemma now is I really want a pair of those NL Pures, but they don't have the rangefinder. So I've got to pick or choose. Do I want the better glass, better field of view, or do I want to keep with the rangefinder in the unit?
No, and this just may be me, giving too much credit to my internet research and stuff. Yeah. But can you see any difference in the glass quality on the laser rangefinder binos versus non?
I'm I say I'm not a glass snob. Obviously, I'm running really high end binos, so I am to some degree. But they say there is a difference.
They say there is.
I don't. Looking at the Zeiss that I had, I think if you looked just through the only one side has the LCD screen in the eyepiece, right? If you were blind in one eye, you wouldn't see the output of the unit. Looking through the one piece, you can definitely see that there's something there. If you pay close attention, like look at it through it as a monocular instead of a binocular. If you look backward through the barrel, you can see that LCD unit on the lens or inside the unit. And so it's got to be doing some, you think about, looking back at like photography classes way back in the day, it's like to get a soft effect on an image, you put a filter on the front of your camera. And so, a speck of dust, for example, on the front of your lens typically is not going to make that big of an effect because your focal length is way past what you're seeing there. So I'm no optical engineer or whatever the heck you call them. We've got a couple of those on staff where we can bring in and they can give us all the details. But I would say it's obviously there and we know it's there. I don't see dramatic effect on quality. I mean, if you were a true glass snob, then a purist, that's probably why they're calling it an NL Pure, then you wouldn't have that in your view. But
and
for
that's
practical use, I don't think anyone's gonna.
And that's kind of the battle I fight.
Because
if I spend half my time bow hunting, which even still it's useful because you can tell how far away is this potential stalking position. Okay, well, how far away is the buck? So once you learn to have that long range laser, even though you don't need it for archery, you still use it for bow hunting. So it still has an application. But that's my dilemma. Do I just depend on a laser rangefinder for my ballistics and get the absolute best glass I can? or do I compromise just a tiny bit on the tiny bit on the glass
Right.
and put everything in one unit?
For sure.
So, my dilemma.
Tough call.
Oof, I think I know your answer though, because if you've been running those Zeiss for so long, and they've been crushing it, I think you could sacrifice a little bit if, I mean, like you said, they may still be some of the top bino glass right now, like those 25-year-olds, but they're probably not. I don't know. I don't know another style out there that's got about the same quality, but
as long as I never look through a pair without, I'd be fine.
Yeah, that's
just an insider tip, but I was just back in the warehouse yesterday. We've got 12 of those things on the shelf, and from what I understand, nobody has those in stock. Like we've got an order in somehow with Swaro.
I'm gonna go get one of those.
Ago. Like we've got them on the shelf. I don't think there are many places you can get them right now. So
we really have 11 because I think I'm gonna go get one of those.
At least one's actually probably 2 are earmarked.
Yeah. There's really like 10 available.
Yeah. Anyway, they're there. So, while we're on the topic of binos, glassing off of a tripod is a big change that I made last year, and I think it's a total game changer. And I'm not the first guy to talk about this. The guys have been preaching this for years and years, and I kind of resisted it and finally switched over to using a binocular mount on my tripod for glassing. Mm-hmm. And if you've never done it, it absolutely, it turns your binocular into an entirely different product if you're used to hand holding.
What, does your snap in or does it screw in?
I've tried both. I've got a little adapter from Really Right Stuff that it just is a little clamp that clamps over the barrel of your eyepiece, and it's just got a little Arca rail on the bottom, and it plops right onto our tripod or any other tripod out there. Really handy, and it'll fit anything without any modifications. I know a lot of guys use these. Outdoorsman's makes a stud that you can, screw into basically your bino, and I think they make it in different versions for different optics. I think Swaro, you have to actually send your binos into them to do the modification, so you're not invalidating your Swarovski warranty. But that's really nice because it's very much integrated. It's low profile, and then you've just got a little tower that you stick in your tripod, and then that just snaps on. And
see, I'm nice. About something like that, but I've run the Vortex one where it screws in.
Same deal. Yeah.
And where it screws into your binos, I don't like leaving it connected because it doesn't fit good.
That's
in my bino
that's
case.
the challenge.
So that takes and then you're trying to find it.
And then you're trying to keep track of that piece, right?
Right.
And so that's where that one from Really Right Stuff is really nice because it's low profile. It'll fit in my bino harness still. Yeah. So I'm kind of back and forth. I've used a little bit of both last year, trying to decide which I prefer, but a little bit of pros and cons to each one.
I haven't tried the snap-on, but that's the way I'd want to go because I've even had where the wind gusted a little bit and the binos fell and then it broke the thing off of the threads off the Vortex one. And I'm just like, it's just not for me anymore. I'd almost rather throw a rear bag up on top of a naked tripod and throw my binos up there than use that thing anymore. But
check out that little Really Right Stuff one. I think they make one out of polymer. It's light. It's probably $50.
Yeah, I have one right here.
Oh, there you go, right
there.
there.
Yeah. See,
so
that's
phenomenal.
legit.
This is probably about one of the only systems you can use with these older binos, but it works really well. And it just clips right into the Arca rail on our tripod.
Yeah, it's a little bit off balance, right? It's not centered on your tripod, which I don't know. Maybe if you're OCD like me, it bugs you just a little bit, but it's not.
But it actually kind of helps in the regard that because our tripod doesn't have a center post, and if you're off center and towards the front, it gets you behind that leg, so you don't feel like those legs are crowding you in the chest.
Sure.
Because normally with like the Outdoorsman tripods, you extend the yoke, and that gets the legs away from you, so you don't feel like you're crowding the legs. But this is I glassed off this quite a bit last year, and I really like this setup. And then what I've done for years, because I never carried a tripod, was just a trekking pole. So kind of for the camera here, this is an old Leopold trekking pole. And I think they sold it as like a monopod rifle rest because you could screw like a V and stuff onto here. But I've used this forever, and just that ability. To just set binos on here. Yeah. It's not quite a tripod, but it's really
just gives
close.
You enough added stability that makes it total.
And my fatigue level, if I just try to glass with my elbows on my knees, man, that's guys that can do that for hours on end. My hat's off to you.
Yeah.
Because my fatigue kicks in, but if I can sit there and sit back in a chair, you know, in a camp chair and just, you know, it's stable.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this also gives me the ability,
It's a shank.
you know, to thread into the, you know, the really right stuff adapter.
Yeah.
Has the threaded hole there.
Yeah.
You know, so if I'm in one place for a long time,
You could really get in tight.
I can just thread these onto there, and
I like that.
And literally they just sit there.
That's nice. Huh.
You know, when we were down in Texas, you know, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, we were watching a group of sheep that was hanging out around a little seep, a little spring.
Uh-huh.
A lot of vegetation there, so it's just out of the 20 sheep, it's waiting for the one big ram to come out to where he's visible. You know, so you know, just sitting there watching nonstop for a bit over an hour. You know, just that ability to thread into here and just sit there, literally like I'm sitting now and watch, rather than hold binos up the whole time.
Yeah.
Just your ability to constantly watch it.
Yeah.
As opposed to coming off, coming back on, missing them,
Yeah.
coming off, coming back on. You know.
And adding some stability, now it gives you a little bit more justification to move up to a 12 power bino.
Yeah.
You know, I ran some Vortex Razor 12s for a couple years and really liked them. A lot of guys say they can't use them handheld because they just can't quite get stable enough to really, you know, you're just too shaky. I found like they were just kind of right on the edge for me. But now if you've got something like that or a tripod to attach to, now all of a sudden you can really easily justify 12s. I can't tell you how many times out in the field, you know, side by side with my buddy running 10s, and it's like, oh, there's a deer. I'm like, yeah, it's a 4-point. And he's like, I think it's got horns.
Yeah.
You know, that little extra too makes a pretty big difference. And then you got guys running 15s and 18s and stuff like that, you know, I haven't quite made that jump yet, but
You know, it's
pretty nice.
I think it was last year. Last year we were with a different outfit down in Texas. You know, we're hunting that really big, wide open country where it's kind of like the desert islands in West Texas, where, you know, you got 5 miles of flats and then you have this just incredibly rocky mountain range. You know, and the guides were all running 15 power binos, and they pretty much knew how close they had to get to that mountain range till they could see stuff with their 15s. And I was completely worthless with my 10s. I mean, I couldn't spot anything, you know, because they were just, you know, they would just, you know, maximize that distance so they could glass it as quick as possible and move on to the next one. But the other thing I was going to point out, you know, on the trekking pole, you know, this is just kind of one of those things I never leave home without. Is unlike most trekking poles, this thing extends tall enough that I can glass standing.
Nice.
And where this really works good is like if you're working over a rise,
Yeah.
you know, you're stalking, you know, it's just, you take a couple steps,
Yeah.
you glass that horizon line so
Right.
that no more than your head's visible.
Exactly.
A couple more steps.
Yeah.
And just that ability to have like a good, stable standing platform that's easy to move,
Right.
you know,
I could see
think
that.
really helps in those kind
Pretty
of
nice.
situations.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of trekking poles, so I've been a big proponent of trekking poles for years. I mean, I like, there's a couple pieces that I refuse to go in the mountains without. My puffy coat is one. And my trekking poles is another. Just don't go anywhere without them. How do you feel? Have you run doubles versus single? And do you feel like
I've never run
You're
doubles
out.
because I've always had something else in my other hand, like a
a
bow.
rifle or a bow or whatever?
Yeah, you know, so I never have run doubles.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that is the challenge with doubles is you're keeping your rifle, your bow strapped on your pack pretty much all the time, or
Yeah.
it's either or kind of thing. But yeah, it seems like I've usually got my rifle strapped to my pack, and has almost burned me a couple times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Usually
and I
managed to pull it off somehow, but
I mean, just having the single though, you know, picking your way. Believe it or not, I used to use that quite a bit, like even trying to stalk mule deer archery.
yeah.
You know, because you're working that really rough technical terrain. Just that third point of contact, your ability to keep balance
Yeah,
is
totally
what
different.
keeps you quiet.
Yeah.
You know, so even though both my hands were occupied, oftentimes I could be a lot quieter
For sure.
using the trekking pole
Yeah.
than just trying to freehand it.
Yeah. You got a rubber tip on there or a carbide tip, or what are you using for the
It just has a rubber tip
just a
on
rubber
there.
tip,
Yeah.
which, especially for
quiet.
archery, a lot quieter.
Yeah.
Those carbide tips do really well, but
Yeah, a lot.
usually early season, especially, I usually end up with rubber tips on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually put a tennis ball on the bottom of mine.
On your walker.
Yeah.
I'm probably not too far out from there.
I've never used them, but I've seen Brian use them on every hunt we've done, and they look
it's-
great. I got too much other crap. I'm like, gosh, dang it.
If you've ever watched a deer like just scramble up a hillside, it's like, thought, man, I wish I could do that. It's like he's got 4 legs.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a complete difference. Moving through really steep country, scree slopes, things like that. It's an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just 10 times more stable. You can move quicker. Big deal for me.
No.
And I usually carry, if I'm backpacking, I carry a trekking pole pitch tent, and so it's part of my my sleep system as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
Nice.
Well, trekking poles. What do we got on the list here?
Yeah. Shelter and sleep systems.
I want to talk emergency gear.
Emergency gear.
Sure.
That's something that it seems like I hear a lot of guys in the hunting space talking about packs and camo and what gun they're hunting and optics. We don't talk about emergency gear very often, and I think it's not paid as much attention. I go hunt with a lot of guys, and I probably get annoying asking guys, "Hey, you got an emergency kit with you or some kind of first aid?" 99% of the time it's I've got some something.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's you're kind of
you're kind of hanging it out there.
Yeah, you're hanging it out there, and part of that probably comes back to I spent some time working with search and rescue back in the day, did some wilderness first responder training, and so that gets beaten into you pretty heavily to have all that emergency gear with you. But so I've always got like a full emergency kit, trauma kit, and everything with me in the mountains.
Where do you keep that in your pack? You just shove it.
I'll show you right here. And it's nasty and ratty because it's used, but that never ever leaves my pack. And if I'm in really wet conditions, I'll put it in a little dry bag or even a big gallon Ziploc bag or something like that to keep it dry. But it's not just a first aid kit. It's like, I've got a sewing kit in there. I've got an emergency bivvy in there, like basically a really fancy space blanket, spare headlamp or emergency headlamp. I've got meds and trauma kit and gear repair, all sorts of stuff in here. I mean, I keep a shopping list actually on my piece of duct tape on the front here. But yeah, it's all there. I've got salt tablets, water purification tablets, meds, everything in there.
That's legit, man. I need to do that.
But you've got a pole saw in there, just things like that that weigh nothing. That's right about a pound. But I'm kind of a weight weenie, but that's one of those few things that I just am not willing to sacrifice on.
I have something fairly similar. Like the two things that I added to mine here in Cody is a tourniquet and quick clot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I do have quick clot in here. I just started carrying a tourniquet last year, and that's something that I never had done. And I always thought I could improvise a tourniquet if I really needed to, but I did start carrying one. Like you said, especially around Cody.
It was kind of hard to imagine how you could need a tourniquet in different environments. But once you get into the grizzly bear country here, and read some of those stories and hear some of the survivor stories,
right?
I kind of, tourniquet and quick clot.
But even
added to mine.
Even cutting up animals, you're using sharp knives. I mean, I've seen knives do some pretty scary things, right? I mean, guys die it seems like someone dies every year hitting an artery. Gutting an elk or whatever. Got gunshot wounds. You're carrying archery gear and sharp broadheads around. I mean, there's a really strong case for carrying quick clot and tourniquet. Guys that don't know quick clot, I'm sure you guys have a lot of background. I think that technology originated in the military, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's basically a powder,
right?
That you can either put it on a sponge and insert into like an actual arterial bleed,
right?
And use it as a compress, or you can sprinkle it on something less,
right? Basically, or very quickly forces blood to clot. So
forces
it stops
blood
bleeds.
to clot. There's heat generated as part of that reaction. So there's going to be a little bit of tissue damage from burning is going to take place. So it's certainly not something you use on your boo-boos.
Right. It's an emergency, life-saving kind of thing. Yeah.
But it had a pretty good track record overseas.
Yeah.
During the initial part of the Iraq War, especially. It was kind of when it was developed.
Right.
And I've heard stories about like arterial bleeds in the neck and stuff. Where you can't tourniquet that.
Right.
But they're able to stop it with quick clot.
Interesting. Huh. Very cool.
And some of the other stuff in a first aid kit too is just like some of the, a little bit of lube for that area between your thighs. Because about 12 miles in, on the third or fourth day, and your thighs are rubbing together, and just those sensitive parts that rub together. Just having that. And
Not
then
a bad idea.
It's baby powder for me. I can't do the
It's called bear grease.
petroleum jelly. Yeah.
Been watching a little bit too much Meat Eater.
yeah,
or something.
bear grease.
Yeah.
That, and especially before I started carrying a half decent sleeping mat,
Yeah.
was like some Advil PM so you could fall asleep at night when you're
100%.
uncomfortable.
That is one of my
Yeah.
top recommendations right there. Is
Yeah.
Tylenol PM.
Yeah,
Get you to
just
sleep.
helps you fall asleep when you're kind of uncomfortable and you're sore and your hip hurts because you're laying on a rock. And
My gear is not near as extensive as that, but it's also, I didn't grow up or even coming out here. The hunts I've done it may be a 2-day thing,
Sure.
and you're never further than 5 miles from your truck or something.
Right,
So still, I should have something like that, because who knows what could happen right then and there.
I mean, I bet you, and it's not knocking on people, but I bet you most guys don't even have that much in their truck. You know?
Oh yeah.
And so even if I'm car camping or truck hunting, it's like I think it's that kind of stuff's good to have have on hand for sure. And I think everybody should be somewhat self-sufficient. Obviously, I think if you're in a group, you should have one really well stocked kit, and maybe everybody has some possibles and essentials in addition. But
and then on the subject of emergency stuff, Ian kind of hit on this in the last episode. We talked about kind of having a system for where your stuff is. And so in the Marine Corps, and then in law enforcement, you always kind of had that layering system. Especially in the Marine Corps, it's like the stuff that was on your body was like the last resort stuff you couldn't live without. And then the next layer up was stuff that was pretty important. And the stuff that wasn't really important was in your pack. With the concept being is that you could dump your pack if you have to. But think about it, when we're hunting, it's pretty common to leave your pack somewhere so you can do a stock. And so now you've got the concept is anything that I really, really need is always on my body. And so that's kind of how I approach the kind of layering system for hunting. Is obviously, it's kind of all centered around the bino harness, but like, the handgun for bear countries, I see a lot of guys carrying on the hip strap of their backpack and it's sitting over there.
Yeah.
It doesn't do them any good.
We've got a really, really sad case in point story in Wyoming a couple years ago. That guy that got attacked, having it on your person. I've been running that, I think you saw last year, that Kenai chest holster with my Glock 10 millimeter, and it's more stuff and kind of hate having it, but it's an absolute necessary here where we hunt. And I wear that right underneath my bino harness, so it sticks out a little bit farther. But the two things together work out pretty well. And you want that pistol on your person, not on a hip belt or in your pack or anywhere else.
It's like always accessible, and it's like I've kind of battled that a little bit, and I end up with mine, under my bino harness. And I've used this Alaska guide holster for years. And then the one thing I didn't like about it was they didn't have any version for a handgun with a light. And just having a light, especially like when you're sleeping out in the backcountry and in the tent, having a light attached to your handgun is just kind of a nice thing when you and so I was actually kind of proud of this. Like, I kept the same Alaska guide harness, but then I zip tied an old SWAT, or not zip tied, but riveted an old SWAT holster that's light compatible to the bottom of it. So now I think I got my ultimate setup.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's
good.
cool.
But
Doing some modifications.
What caliber are you carrying?
10 millimeter.
And
luckily I haven't had to put it to use on a bear yet. It seems like a lot of people think that's the kind of absolute minimum for grizzlies around here. I started doing a lot of research back in the day. I think the first bear gun I went and bought a little Ruger LCR 357 Magnum and thought I could put just the biggest, meanest bullets in there. But I, first of all, that thing like just about broke every bone in your hand every time you pulled the trigger. It was so painful to shoot. And I moved over to this Glock now. It's way lighter than your big 44 mags that a lot of guys carry, and you got a few more rounds to deal with. So
because I grew up with 44 mags. So when I was a teenager, I bought a Ruger Red Hawk as soon as I could afford one.
Right.
And then I've kind of gone full circle. Because then I went to that, and then I'm like, well, I want a bigger revolver. So believe it or not, I have a 500 Smith in my safe.
Nice.
Which it shoots. I have a bullet mold that drops 500 grain bullets.
Wow.
So it shoots 500 grain bullets about 1,100 feet per second. It's
Dang.
I'll say manageable, but it's not fun.
Right.
But the reality is, is I'm carrying a 1911 platform now
Yeah.
with a 460 Roland.
Yeah.
And what that is basically it's a lengthened 45 ACP case,
Uh-huh.
and Buffalo Bore and a few other companies do make
Yeah.
ammunition for it.
Yeah.
And it's a retrofit you put on most of your existing 45 ACP handguns.
Nice.
And it gets you almost 44 mag volt, energy,
Yeah.
and velocities out of a 45 ACP platform.
Nice.
And for me personally, I mean, I think your ability to shoot it well is completely trumps power.
Sure.
So I mean, and I think that's kind of started to take hold where you see a lot of guys, as long as they're using good bullets, carrying their 9mm or the 10 mil out in the backcountry, and they're probably a lot better off
Right.
with that gun that they probably shoot pretty well rather than that 44 Magnum or the 454 Casull that they likely don't shoot very well.
Sure.
So for me, that's the thing is I've carried this gun forever professionally, so I'm very comfortable with it.
Right.
So I know I shoot it well,
Yeah.
and I will take that over the revolver, which
I believe
I
it.
may not shoot so well.
Yeah, I am. No doubt.
But kind of some of the stuff I was getting to is like the stuff that's always on your body, and I see spot locator.
Yeah.
I see a lot of spot locators in packs.
And I do that.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that, and I see a lot of guys carrying it like on, carabiner on a shoulder strap or something like that. I think it is smart and probably need to change that up. I hate to have so much stuff hanging on me. But it's worth considering for sure.
Yeah. Cause it's like that, the bear spray, the gun. And then I always make sure, licenses and tags, so they're not left with a pack somewhere. And then, always a headlamp in the front pocket. Because you think about it, headlamp's pretty important to get stuck out after dark. So I kind of look at that's the stuff that I absolutely need, to always have on me because I may leave my backpack, somewhere, for a little bit. So, just that layering system and then just that muscle memory of everything's always in the same place and practicing with it. Dummy cords on everything, laser rangefinder. But it's dummy corded, so, I can just let it hang. I don't have to actually get it back in the pouch when I'm done with it. So just, it's just kind of taking that kind of operator mentality, and applying it to our hunting gear, where you find a system that works for you and everything's always in the same place and you get good with that system. And then it just flows when you're in the field.
With your bino harness carrying, that's one thing I've fought is you get down prone to shoot, and now that thing's like you're laying on top of that thing. Do you struggle with that? It doesn't bother you? Do you just take it up or kind of shift it to the side?
It almost comes up high enough to become a rear bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have used mine as a rear bag quite a few times actually.
Yeah. Or you can.
I found I can unbuckle one side and just kind of pull it to the
Yeah,
side.
that's exactly. If I can't do it right here, then I unbuckle it and shift it for sure.
Yeah, I was curious about, I see some people when they get prone, they're all the way down, and some people when they get prone, they're up a little bit still. So I wasn't sure. I was curious if that affected other people like it affects me.
No, and it's pretty rare you find a place in the field that you can get all the way down prone.
Nice, clean parking lot type prone. Yeah.
You put a backpack down so it props you up a little bit so you're high enough that you can see over the stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And mine was the same mentality. I remember we always carried, like Brian said, the layering system.
Yeah.
And so everything had to be on your body. And this is the nut ruck that I talk about, the tactical fanny.
Yeah.
And I carry this every time I go hunting. And it sits up front just like this. And if for some reason it's getting uncomfortable, I shift it to the back. Either way, I can wear a pack with a hip belt over top.
You
of
can,
it.
yeah.
And it sits right underneath your hip belt, and so it doesn't get in the way. But for me, it's same deal. I got a little sewing kit.
Yeah.
I always bring 50 feet of 550 cord, and then these zip ties are from the last deal, but zip tie is good to have. This came in super handy. I bought this. This is from Norden Knives.
Yeah.
The North is kind of that Norden.
Yeah, guys just north of us here in Montana. Yeah. Making some cool knives.
And they make the Ascent, the Mini Ascent, and the Ascent XL, I think. So this is the little mini, and this has been an awesome little knife.
Did you get to put it to use in Texas?
Oh yeah. On a bunch of animals.
Nice.
But this piece has been they sold me one of these. It was at Salt Lake, and just having this stone has been. Or the steel
sharpener.
Yeah, it's been great because heck, we used it multiple times on multiple animals.
Touch up an edge.
Yeah, right.
It's huge.
Yeah, cool. So having that in there, I think was awesome. I used to do the old one like this, and then I was kind of told by these Norden guys, they're like, "Man, you're taking off a lot of
Yeah.
of metal when you're using that. So
Right.
anyway, I still got it in there, but and we used to always do this in the Marines too. So I kind of like this is you almost got a half a roll of duct tape
Yep.
wrapped around your lighter, and it's all one
Right.
piece.
Yeah.
A
That
lot of
brings
guys-
up a funny point. Like you always see these magnesium fire starters sold as survival kits.
yeah.
I'm like,
How about a
if
lighter?
I'm in a survival situation and I've got something about that big, why would I want it to be hard to use? How about a lighter?
Yeah. Yeah. Try starting a fire with one of those in the middle of
Yeah.
a rainstorm. Well, those as well, you know, I mean, if you want a real, you know, good pressurized butane light or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think another one of my biggest things that is, to me, it's such a little thing, but it becomes big. And when you need it, is some chapstick.
Good
I
call.
think that is one of the worst things is when you don't have chapstick and you're wind burnt and
Yeah.
dehydrated or whatever. So this has been in my survival kit or whatever
Yeah.
since sniper school through deployment. That same chapstick.
Yeah.
How about the one thing that I've seen more people forget than anything? Toilet paper.
Dude, I'm
Hold on.
guilty.
Hold on.
Hey,
Oh, you got
Brian's got his solution. You know what I started doing that, you know,
that's used too.
I've not
That's
not seen anyone
Hold
else
on to
do,
it.
is have you seen these newfangled little Kleenex packs? It's like pre-folded Kleenex in a little plastic thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're like this big around. Like
Yep.
my wife carries them around in her purse.
Yep.
I started carrying those things around, just like one of those in my little possibles bag in the lid of my kit. And like for some reason, it's way easier for me to remember to just keep one of those in there than like go and grab a roll of toilet paper or grab a whole bunch of it and fold a bunch of nice little
Yeah.
squares, you know, and put it in a Ziploc bag. It's like, to me, that's been 10 times easier. And being able to remember it is 99% of the battle, I think, with toilet paper.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you're not leaving a pair of
Yeah.
boxers out in the woods.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did we cover it all?
Yeah. One more piece of gear I was going to pull out here. Pointing on the rifle hunting side.
You grab her?
Yeah, I think something for anyone that's rifle hunting is you got to have a little maintenance kit. You know, and same thing archery. You know, little maintenance kit for archery. But you know, I see a lot of folks using these. You know, it doesn't have to be a dedicated cleaning kit. You know, it's really just a little bit of gun oil and a little bit of grease, some patches, and some sort of a cleaning rod. You know, and it's pretty cheap, but this little one's called Rapid Rod. I've had it forever, you know, but it basically just breaks down and then threads together.
Huh.
And when you
Yeah, that's a
got
cool
it
little
from this
deal.
end,
Huh.
and then it's got a cable in the middle of it, and you
Tighten it up. That's really
you
cool.
tighten it up. And so now this gives you the ability to have an actual rod where you can punch an
Right.
instruction out of your board.
Right.
You know, because you see, and if I tighten this up more, it'll get. There we go. Yeah, so
That's
you see-
pretty cool.
Yeah, now that it's tightened up, I mean, you got the ability to punch a bore with this.
Right. So you
You know,
can
and you
keep
see-
a couple patches in there.
Yeah, you see so many people, you know, carrying a, what do they call it, the snakes?
Like a boar snake.
Boar snake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well, so
Wouldn't
you
I really
fall
need
and get mud in the
Yeah.
muzzle of your barrel. A boar snake's not going
It's
to do a lot
worthless.
of good, right?
or if you get a round stuck in the chamber.
Yeah, and you got to pop
Yeah,
it.
now you have the
round
ability
out.
to pop it out.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, this can handle, you know, really about probably 95% of the weapon type malfunctions.
Right.
You're like it actually get in the field.
That's pretty
You
handy.
know, so some sort of a breakdown, you know, cleaning rod. Now, this is aluminum, you know, so anyone that's been through our gun cleaning class knows that we don't recommend using aluminum cleaning rods, but this
Right.
is just for like the, you know, that kind of that
Emergency.
one time, you know,
Yeah.
use.
So you carry that pretty much always
Yeah.
in your pack.
Yeah.
That's not something I've done. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, if you're archery hunting, you'd have an arrow, but
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're rifle hunting, it's a different deal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then just some, you know, usually some lens cleaner, you know, a lens cloth. You know, but just a bare bones basics, you know, and these little packets are actually gun oil and grease.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
so just a bare bones basics on being able to take care of a rifle. And this is, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 ounces or
Yeah.
something like
Right. Nice. Very cool.
I think one thing I packed in my pack here too. We talk about gear that you're like First Light or Kuyu or whatever, your layers. To me, this is one of my biggest pieces of gear as well. It's just one of these like sun shirts, like almost like fishing shirts.
Yeah.
And I mean, this one was, I think, $14 from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
First Light makes an awesome one. Kuyu makes an awesome one.
Yeah.
Brian's got a sweet First Light one that I really like.
Yeah.
But just grabbing one of these from like Amazon for $14, $20, I think these come into play so much with the hood protecting your neck, and then I like using them for if you're sitting there glassing for a while and you just drape something over you to block out the sunlight coming into your your peripherals will make you pick up stuff so much better, I think, as well.
Those lightweight hoodies are my go-to. I mean, I've got a few. They're Merino. They're really expensive and they don't wear really well, but they're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I just picked one up. I think it was like one of those free shirts at a match I shot last year that's almost identical to this, and it's been one of my most favorite new pieces of. I mean, it's just comfortable. It freaking works, and
I've got 5 of these now.
That's cool.
They're all Amazon brands, so I'm
right.
kind of so
Nice.
yeah, they're great.
If it works, it works.
And I think my last little comfort gear, don't leave home without it. And if you knew how many mountains I've carried this heavy thing up, you'd be amazed. And it's actually made by
Crazy Creek. Yeah.
Crazy Creek, which is up here in Red Lodge, Montana.
Yeah.
But it's a camp chair.
Yeah.
And I think I got this at Barney's Sports Chalet up in Anchorage.
Okay.
And it's got a little weight to it, but boy, that ability, if you're sitting on the side of a mountain glassing, to sit with some back support, you can sit there for hours without really getting that uncomfortable.
Right.
But boy, to sit there without any back support, then you combine that with some wet conditions and the ability to have something dry under you.
Big deal. In the snow as well.
Yeah.
Pretty handy. I don't know if you remember bear hunting last year. I had that little collapsible Helinox chair. I think mine was actually made by Big Agnes. But, similar idea, but it gets you up off the ground.
Gets you off the ground.
Collapsible, really light little aluminum frame, and then a chair. So kind of like almost like a folding camp chair, but ultra light, packs down to about a pound and that big.
Yeah.
And, I don't carry it around in the mountains quite as much, but if you're doing like bear hunting in the spring where you're walking, logging roads and glassing all day long, it sure is handy to be able to just have something to lean back up against and do some glassing.
I've strapped this to the outside of my pack on quite a few 4 or 5 day type backpack hunts.
Right.
If you spend a lot of time behind the glass,
Can be pretty handy.
I think it's worth it.
Right.
Because if you can just keep your attention focused, your ability to find stuff is really dependent upon how focused you are.
Right.
And the less comfortable you are, the less focused you are.
Yeah.
So if you can keep yourself comfortable, that's worth a pound.
Right.
In my opinion.
Well, not to mention in camp, pretty nice to have something to sit on. As well.
Yeah.
So pretty handy. Do we want to cover shelters and sleep systems real quick and then wrap up? We're kind of going a little longer than we usually like to go, but while we're at it, might as well, huh?
Sure.
Well, what are you guys thinking for sleep systems these days? I mentioned I just spent the weekend seam sealing a couple new tents. I'm gonna try and make a move and try out some floorless shelters this year. I've kind of been a tent guy, like a floored tent guy for a long time. I like getting out of the bugs and having something under me. And if I figure my past philosophy has been, if I'm going to carry something over me, I might as well add a couple ounces and have something under me. But some of these new floorless systems have definitely had me intrigued, and especially the ability to add a tent or a stove inside some of those tents. So I picked up a couple teepee tents from Seek last year. Definitely excited to give those a try. I've spent a couple hunts the last couple of years with some buddies in that Kifaru sawtooth tent, and I know a lot of guys really like that. Like that one, but
I'm not that.
Why is it just a minimalist type thing, or why would
you do that? I think you can get a little bit more floor space, and so I kind of cut my teeth in the little bit more granola backpacking and climbing space, and so it was ultralight backpacking tents that I kind of started with and kind of have been using for years, and I think they have their place. But for a lot of us, we're carrying a rifle, we're carrying a backpack, all this gear. It's in variable terrain. One thing that I found is, man, I kind of cut my teeth hunting in the Wasatch Mountains in Utah, and those mountains, if you can find a spot that's big enough to lay in, that's flat, you're doing really well. There are no flat spots in those mountains. I mean, I've hunted the crazy Absorcas and all this stuff here. There's way more stuff to pitch a tent here than there is down there. And so down there, half of it was having a small footprint of your tent because, you know, I've spent hours and hours and hours digging out just a spot, the one spot on the mountain where I could find to put a tent. And so having a small footprint was good. But when you've got a teepee, you don't have a floor. And so you can start getting weird with your pitch. And so you could actually even have a flat spot on a hill here and kind of put part of that teepee up onto the hill. And, you know, it throws things off a little bit, but not as bad as
and it's not
a
lifting
tent with a
poles.
floor. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the last guy to talk about this kind of stuff because I still carry my Marine Corps issued and technically acquired sleeping bag and the little mummy waterproof zip up deal with like the mesh face.
Yeah.
That's still all I have. So
No, I mean, and there's a place for a bivy sack for sure, right? I've used those for years as well.
You know, and for years I used it was made out of Gore-Tex. You know, and they used to sell it like U.S. Cavalry, so it wasn't like super ultra lightweight, but it was made out of Gore-Tex. It was pretty waterproof. And it was basically just one of those mummy style, you know, one-man tents.
Yeah.
You know, but it didn't have a side zip, so you literally had to slither in there like a worm.
Okay, right.
You know, and I didn't push the limits too much on weather, but, you know, I rode out a few thunderstorms and stuff in Wyoming over the years.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, I got to a point where I realized that, you know, my gear's getting all wet. And at the time, like an MSR Hubba weighed about the same as this one-person shelter. So I used the MSR Hubba for a couple years.
Great little tent.
Yeah, actually quite a few years. And they're a good little tent, you know. And then actually just last year, I got one of the it's the Kuyu Summit Star one person.
You got the one person. I've been eyeing it for a while.
Yeah.
Been tempted.
And so I got the one person, and I was running it without the floor, and I was using their poles, you know, just because my one trekking pole, I use that.
Sure.
You know, and never rained. I will tell you, it can handle a lot more wind than I thought it could.
Really? Yeah.
You know, but
it's pretty low to the ground.
Yeah,
right?
pretty low to the ground, and it's just a shape cuts the wind pretty good.
Yeah.
And you can get those edges down to the ground where the wind can't get under it.
Yeah.
Pretty well. You know, about the only thing I'd say though is, boy, it makes noise.
Does it?
Like trying to sleep at night when the wind was really kicking.
Right.
I mean, it was flapping.
That's really about any tent. I mean, it's pretty tough to.
Maybe more so than I'd remembered from windy nights in the Hubba.
Yeah.
But no, it worked good, and it was significantly lighter.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the two different routes to go. You know, is that floorless, and like I say, I think for me, I'm not getting rid of my floor tents, but definitely giving those floorless a try. But to me, the big advantage is I could throw a stove in there for real cold conditions. But you know that I've been a big fan of a couple of those big Agnes tents. They've got a couple real nice ones. There's a more traditional 2-man copper spur that I've had really good luck with for a few years. I mean, you're talking 3 pounds for the entire setup. I've got one that I haven't seen around a lot. It's called their Scout, and I should have brought it. It literally packs down to about the size of an Nalgene bottle, about the size of this thing. It's 2 pounds, the entire thing with stakes and everything, pitches with trekking poles, and you're not going to ride out like the gnarliest, you know, Alaska storms in the world, but like I've sat out some pretty good storms, and it does really well, really light. And you've got a floor, so it keeps the bugs out.
You know, and I would say about probably the biggest thing where I wished I still had with the MSR Hubba, you know, when I was using just the ultralight, was that freestanding ability. Yeah. You know, because kind of like you talk about with the rocks, like finding a place that I could get stakes into the ground.
Right.
You know, was always difficult.
Yeah, we've all fought that.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, so having that freestanding where, you know, if I just put enough stuff in there, it's not going to blow away as long as it's weighted down. Yeah. You know, so that was kind of the other thing to keep in mind when you're trying to use these like solo minimalist one-person shelters
for sure
up in the rocks, is you've got to find a place you can put stakes in.
Right.
You know, there,
or get creative with tree branches and
rocks
big rocks and things like that. I sat out a night up here deer hunting last year in Grizz country, and it was 40-mile-per-hour winds up in this, you know, these Absorcas. The wind's just absolutely horrendous. And I remember I think I was short a stake or two, and so I ended up using a couple big rocks. And man, by the morning, those rocks were, you know, they had not even though they'd hold quite a bit, the wind blew enough that it moved.
They moved them.
Yeah, the
Oh,
tent
wow.
pulled the rocks with it and everything. I think I spent half the night sitting in that tent, holding those poles up, trying to keep the tent from coming down on me. But
Well, good news
You
is
know,
you
it's-
couldn't hear the bears out there.
well,
'cause of
that was the
wind.
thing, right? It's like, yeah, I couldn't hear the bears when they were coming to eat me, and definitely wasn't brave enough to just spend the night in the bivy sack. It's funny how you get inside a tent, you somehow feel safer than sitting like a little bear burrito in your bivy sack. But good times.
Yeah. So Brian, the one I'm looking at, not this one, but the one you got, that's a floorless one as well. Huh?
Yeah. The floorless didn't bother me at all.
Summit.
With the Summit Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll go floorless or
Yeah.
floored, right? You can
Yeah.
buy the pieces.
Yeah, I mean,
separate.
it basically comes with like 3 pieces. It comes with
Yeah.
the floor, the fly,
Yeah.
and then it comes with a
Has a bathtub
like a
floor.
no-seam net.
yeah, deal there too. So
Okay.
pretty cool deal. I've looked at that one person. Definitely tempting to snag one.
Yeah, I think that's for just our earlier season stuff in the West
Yeah.
where it's not that stormy,
Right.
and you just want a little shelter. I
Yeah.
think that worked
Pretty
out
nice.
really well. The little Kuyu Summit Star.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I think we've probably covered it all, huh?
No, we probably put a whole lot of people to sleep. by
Yeah,
now.
we're hour and a half, definitely longer than we usually like to go.
And
But
so if you're still with us, then my hat's off to you.
yeah, right.
Or you need to get a life. One of the
Right,
two.
right. But if there's anything else you wanted to hear about, if you want details on anything we talked about, always ping us, shoot us an email at podcast@gunwerks.com, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook. We're happy to share any details we have. If you got other ideas or things that we missed, then definitely give us a holler. We're always here and definitely interested in hearing your feedback and suggestions. So cool.
Awesome.
Till next time.
Next time.
Can't pass up an opportunity to talk gear, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Big gulps.
Sweet. Big gulps. Yeah.
If you like what you're hearing here, please take a second and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on iTunes or on your favorite podcast app. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions for topics you'd like discussed or questions you want answered on the podcast. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram or send us an email to podcast@gunwerks.com. Also, be sure and check out our full offering of long-range gear at gunwerks.com. Use promo code LRP for free shipping on any order.